non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
See, he's definitely still in the mix, obviously, at both center and guard. But, I think for the most part right now, just getting him healthy and getting him back out there in a way where, I'm sure if you ask him right now, he'd want to be out there going every day, regardless of how he feels. But we want to make sure he's back and ready to roll and give himself a chance to either play Saturday or potentially make sure we get him out there against the Broncos in a week.
Is KOC, who is he talking about there again, Dex?
Chris Reed.
Chris Reed. Yeah, so they brought in these veteran guards, Jesse Davis, Chris Reed.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Ed Ingram's going to be the starting right guard anyways, it looks like. Now, could Chris Reed kind of come back into the backup center competition in the last few weeks of camp? I don't know.
I don't see it.
Or maybe Schlottman's
got a better chance.
Yeah. Do you think those guys are at risk of getting cut? Jesse Davis or Chris Reed?
Yes, I think one of them definitely is. And if I'm not mistaken, Jesse Davis signed. Now, keep in mind, it's a National Football League contract, so it's not what it looks like. But I think Jesse Davis signed a 2 or 3 year deal, and I think Chris Reed signed a 1 year deal.
Okay.
So, yes, I think Chris Reed is in jeopardy of being cut because, keep in mind, Davis, when he did practice on what would have been Wednesday, had been flipped to left guard. So, like, he was competing for starting right guard. That's why I think the competition is done. Yeah. So the last time that Davis participated, they are clearly working on him being the swing guy, which is fine. That's smart. Mm-hmm. And Schlottman, I think, is going to make the team as a guard center, but the primary backup to Bradbury. And the important thing to keep in mind is Chris Reed was trying to compete for the second team center, but has never played the position in a game. So, like, if Schlottman has to play, you're pretty sure, it might not be great, but you're pretty sure he can snap the ball. With Reed, there's a lot of question marks. So I think Chris Reed's spot is very much potentially on the chopping block.
I bet you guys didn't think we were going to blast you with meat potatoes, mashed potatoes, offensive line talk there the first 2 minutes, did you?
Where it comes from, though. That's why I make that drive.
Some
TCL.
gravy.
I just hang out there, and I swim in football. There. I swim in footballs. Just
it's like the McDonald's little kid ball pits, but they have one of those for adults, and they're footballs.
And that's where
Vikings
I am.
Training camp.
That's where you can find me.
So this is Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment. Phil Mackey, Judd Zulgad, executive producer Declan Goff, and we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. The show is presented by our friends at TCL. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. And TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, home appliances. TCL bringing you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Learn more at TCL.com. And we're celebrating the summer of Surly. I got my Surly shirt on here.
Yeah, you do.
I like it.
And that's purple. It looks very nice. It looks very, and in fact, if we are talking about the purple and the very important summer of Surly, I'm going to bring this guest on board here because it's going to be something that fans are going to love. It's not just a motto, gentlemen. It's now a Surly beer. Before I Die, available starting tomorrow night at the game. More importantly, I think it's going to make its way into liquor stores as well. And now there are so many good choices, right? The Logic Bomb, the Furious, the Supremes. So, you don't have to be just confined to one. But in the summer of Surly, as we begin a football season, and no matter the age, if you're a Purple fan, you're thinking to yourself, man, it'd be nice before I die to see a Super Bowl championship. You can sip on this while you are pondering where the parade would go.
Love it. All right, every week we dive into the comment section here, both in the Score North app, the feedback tab. You can always send us comments, concerns, critiques, whatever you want, theories, speculation, complaints. And we always are checking Score North social media, our Twitter account, etc. You can always, the YouTube comment sections. But let's start with some clarification here in the Mr. Mankato competition. So for those who are unaware, we created and launched the Mr. Mankato competition about 8 years ago. I think it was in 2014.
Yeah.
And we did this when we had a 4-hour radio show on 1500 ESPN at the time. And it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. But I think just based on a lot of the chatter I've seen on social media, there's a lot of people saying Justin Jefferson is Mr. Mankato or whoever else. let's clarify the parameters for Mr. Mankato here, and then Judd will list his finalists for Mr. Mankato. You might be asking, why is it still called Mr. Mankato? They practice in Egan. Just don't ask too many questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
It was in Mankato for like 55 years.
Plus, it works.
Yes, we like alliteration. Okay,
It's alliteration.
so number one, we're looking to crown under the radar high achievers at Vikings training camp. So the guys that are just sort of, maybe they're fringe roster guys, maybe they weren't highly touted going in, but they flash at training camp. There's always a guy like that. But these players must be third-round picks or later. They can be undrafted or they can be, signed off another team's practice squad, whatever. They must not be established NFL players. So there's some leeway here in that maybe there is a player that was drafted like a couple years ago. KJ Osborne returned kicks a little bit in 2020, but didn't do a whole lot. So he was still eligible going into last year's training camp. I would say there's some of those draft picks from 2021 that maybe they played a little bit in the NFL, like a Patrick Jones or something, but they're still eligible. They still have Mr. Mankato eligibility remaining. And I will say this, because you alluded to picking a winner today, but the competition does run through the entire preseason. The bulk of what you're probably going to use as knowledge has already happened at the practices, but we still want these guys to have a chance in the 2 preseason games to flash. So with those parameters, give us your finalist, and then if you want to give us sort of, who you think has the best chance right now.
Fair enough.
And we'll see what happens in the last 2 preseason games, but go ahead.
All right. My finalists are as follows. Jaylen Twyman, defensive tackle, 6th-round pick in 2021, who was a shot while with a friend in Washington, D.C. a year ago, June. Defensive tackles, and we have discussed this before, it's very hard for them to stand out. Like, you don't really, you're not, I'm watching the trenches again. But this guy is the first guy out to practice each day. He is absolutely chiseled. He has worked his ass off. He is the definition of a guy who deserves to be on this list. And I think he is going to push for a roster spot. Now, I did not have him on the 53 that I did, but that was just the first one. So Jaylen Twyman.
Okay.
The next one's the most controversial, but I think it works. Defensive end, as you saw, 3rd-round pick, 2021, Patrick Jones II, okay? He played in 9 games last year, but no sacks, mainly special teams. I think he's damn good. But to me, he is a borderline guy, but he qualifies because I don't feel he got really a chance last year.
Yeah.
So
I think in that case, if we needed to get a committee together to subjectively decide, is he an established NFL player or not, I would say he's very borderline, but
yeah, right.
I think he's still eligible.
Exactly.
I think he's still eligible.
All right, my next guy, 3rd-round pick, 2022, linebacker who looks like a safety from Oklahoma, Brian Assamelle. Now, I think he has a chance in these last 2 games to capture this thing. Like, he wouldn't be my choice today, but I really like him. And I think interior linebacker-wise, my guess, this guy is starting in 2023 for sure. I really like what he brings, and I think he was a guy who was drafted because he's got a particular skill set that is very much in tune with what the Ed Donatel defense is going to want. Hybrid player, so he is my 3rd guy.
Fast and multiple, I think, are the 2 words I would use to describe Brian Assamelle.
Oh, football.
Fast
exactly
and
right.
multiple.
Exactly right. All right. My 4th candidate, 5th-round pick this past year as well, from North Carolina via Tennessee, a guy that I think we've talked about quite a bit on this show, especially because of his performance on Sunday, Ty Chandler, running back.
Yeah.
Ty Chandler has impressed me. Ty Chandler is a guy who I think there is a chance that if you try to sneak him through waivers onto your practice squad, gets claimed. I think he brings, again, I think he is very much a nice offensive chip for today's game. So, he's not a bell cow guy. That's absolutely fine. But I think he's got the ability. And it's interesting to note that in Thursday's practice, gentlemen, Kane Wong, who we all like and has great speed, dropped 3 passes. Now, one was a very questionable poor pass by his pal Sean Mannion. But my point is, I haven't seen with my eyes, Ty Chandler dropped a lot of balls. So he is a very interesting guy, and I think he definitely, if nothing else, based on what he's done in practices and also on Sunday against the Raiders, deserves to be a leading candidate for this.
I will say this too. So I think sometimes we assume, Wongwu, he's super fast, and so he must have some experience catching passes out of the backfield, right? Catching screen passes or whatever. He spent 4 years at Iowa State.
Yep.
He caught 7 passes in 4 years at Iowa State.
Okay.
So it is a big question. And he was never even really, the most carries he had was 61 in 2020 at Iowa State. So he hasn't even really had that much experience carrying the ball. So I think there's a chance that maybe Wongwu kind of remains as a trinket special teams player that you have some offensive stuff written up for, but that Ty Chandler is the more just like polished, versatile running back that you would use in your formations. So
absolutely. And my right now leading candidate, based on what I have seen from this kid, and he fits the definition of this award absolutely perfectly, is a guy who was signed to the Vikings practice squad last year and spent time there after being released by the Rams, who initially signed him in 2020, and that is wide receiver Tristan Jackson, who I think has been really, like, he is the type of guy who you start camp, you have no idea, just assume he's a slappy, not going to make the team. This guy has been impressive with his routes. He's been impressive with his receptions. And I think it's important to note this. When you are playing in a wide receiver core that has Thielen, Jefferson, Osborne, Smith-Marset to a certain point, right? So it's mostly taken up, and it's some really, really high-end talent at the top. And you still managed to get a guy like Judd Zolgad to be like, whoa, this guy's good. Mm-hmm. Like, because I'm watching Jefferson. I'm like, oh, man. But when you get me to watch that and say, oh, wow, there's something here. This guy's impressive. And I had no idea. I couldn't identify you the first day of camp. That's why right now he is my leading candidate.
Interesting. Wow. Yes.
Back in the old days.
Oh, my God. You found it. Wow.
Oh, there he is, Mr. Mankato.
So right now, Tristan Jackson would be your Mr. Mankato before. Now, who knows what could happen? Maybe Ty
100%.
Chandler goes for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns in this next preseason game.
Absolutely.
I think Ty Chandler is probably the betting favorite based on what could happen carrying the ball.
Sure. But, these are the rules. These are the candidates. Like, I saw, and look, the fact that people on Twitter have, like, picked this thing up and tried to run with the thought process is awesome. So I'm not... That's great. But I saw a few people yesterday saying, Greg Joseph, he's been great. Well, he doesn't qualify.
He doesn't count.
Yeah.
Because he is an established NFL player.
Yes.
He was a full-time kicker last year.
He should be good, damn it. Jackson, who knows, right?
Yeah. No,
Twyman, who knows? 3 guys who are out because they're going to come up, okay? Just quickly. Albert Wilson, wide receiver, caught 2 touchdown passes on Sunday and has been very good and impressive, but he's in his 8th year.
Yeah, he's an established NFL player. I can't put him in a
top 5. No. Second guy, Cam Bynum. Now, this is not his fault. 4th round pick in 21, but he came into camp as the starter, and he has not moved.
Yeah.
So like he established himself. If
he was a starter for like 3 games last year, and he was really good. So
And if we did an award based on OTAs, minicamp, then he gets that one. But he doesn't get this one. And the last one, Dex's guy, 5th round pick, 2021, just on the outside looking in. He'd probably be my 6th guy, tight end, Zach Davidson, who's dropped a few balls. But, he's gotten a chance here, too. And he's made some nice plays. So that's why those 3 guys are not on the list of 5.
Okay. And Kellen Mond would have to do some pretty great things here, I would assume. And
look, dude, I've seen enough in practice. I wouldn't put him on the list.
Okay.
The preseason game, I definitely would. But that's why we have eyes on the practices for this very purpose.
Got eyes everywhere.
I've been to every practice but the one that they did the dress rehearsal at the stadium. So, I've seen every practice, and Kellen Mond, in no way, shape, or form, would qualify through the practices for this.
Dylan Ray, via the Score North app, chimes in about our generations discussion yesterday. I threw this out on Twitter this morning.
Saw that.
So we just started, I don't know, we just kind of stumbled into the, you got the baby boomers and Gen X, and you got the millennials and Gen Z and whatever the next one is. Well, what are those for Vikings fans? What would we call them? Would we call it we could go negative, which I think is how a lot of people associate and relate to each other, right? The pain that you feel as a Viking fan. So you could go the 0 for 4 generation 0 for 4 in Super Bowls. Maybe there's generation wide left for those of us that grew up watching the 90s Vikings and the 98 season. So
yep.
We're solicited. If you could respond to the tweet that I put out this morning, and actually Friday morning, at Phil Mackey, you can get in on the conversation. But Dylan says, I've been watching you guys on YouTube for about a year and a half now. I got to say, I can't even listen to the, as Judd put them, false prophets anymore on that other radio station. Love the whole lineup of shows. Keep it up. Thank you, Dylan. Appreciate that.
Very nice.
I got the names for the Vikings generations for you. He says the oldest generation would be the Hank Stram generation.
Yep.
So think about the old NFL films matriculating the football.
Yep.
The Hank Stram laugh highlights from Super Bowl IV, right?
Yes. That's a good one. I like that one.
I like that
The
one.
next generation would be the push-off generation.
Yeah.
I know Judd said he was only 5 when it happened, but any age is plus or minus 5 years, and boom, it works.
Okay.
And then he says next would be, and he says he's a year older than I am, or a year younger than I am, would be the wide left generation.
Okay.
But that's kind of a large gap because the
Well, I was
push
going to
off.
say you're going short to long.
Yeah.
You're right.
And then so you get the wide left of Gary Anderson, plus Brett Favre threw across his body to the left, and Blair Walsh missed a kick to the left.
Yeah.
And then you've got Generation Shank the Bed, which starts with the Blair Walsh shank, but it's also Vikings proverbially defecating the bed in Philadelphia in 2017.
Wow.
I don't know that these are perfectly honed, but I think you're in the right ballpark of the different
Yes.
generations here.
Yeah, I think we need to
Yes.
break. I think we need to break the first one up more to make it a longer period than the push off, though.
Yeah.
Like if
No,
it's
I
Hank
think-
Stram, it has to be something like in the 80s, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. The
know.
80s are a hard one to define.
Right. Well, and the Kramer miracle at the Met Pass is a great memory, but that team was not that good, and it really didn't define a generation. It was just a really cool one-off play.
But
Generation
there's
Bernstein
definitely
or
though like a humongous fraction of Vikings fans that attach themselves to Tommy Kramer, just like I attach myself to Dante. So like not just call it the Kramer generation, but like there is a clear fraction of Vikings fans, probably like one group ahead of Phil and between Judd that loved Tommy Kramer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Tommy. Absolutely.
Let's keep workshopping this. There's something here. There's a t-shirt line here. We'll keep honing this.
I feel like it's a good start right there.
Yes. And then there's so this kind of goes hand in hand here. Stuart Gonzalez via the Score North app says, I identify as the Kirk Cousins generation. I started paying attention in 2017 and started caring and watching the team more in 2018.
Now, there you
The
go.
only quarterback I know is Cousins, and my entire experience has been everyone debating on how good he is and his contract. My only experience with Zimmer was seeing him fall apart. I'm really interested in seeing what the Cousins legacy will be in 15 to 20 years.
It's
Interesting.
that part's so fascinating to me because even I've talked to like a couple of Vikings fans. I don't know if Stuart was actually on Ventline. It might have been the same guy here because I remember talking to someone similar about this. And even my girlfriend's little brother's 15 and he loves Kirk, so he's like in those formidable years, right, where he didn't really have to experience like he definitely remembers the Minneapolis Miracle because he was like 11, 10 years old. But his formidable years here when he's in high school and he's like really becoming a diehard football fan is all of Kirk Cousins. So he doesn't remember really that much of Teddy Bridgewater, right? He doesn't remember Matt Castle, Christian Ponders. So that entire generation, there is a generation of Vikings fans who are early teenagers right now that's all they know. They weren't used to all the dozens of quarterbacks. And how does that change their entire wiring? It's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about
I
it.
suppose if you're like, and I know, we know that there's a ton of younger fans under the age of 22, 23 that consume this show on YouTube. And so, we see you guys out there, but yeah, you don't remember Brett Favre in 2009. It's amazing. It's been 13 years since that season.
13 years ago yesterday, right? When Brett touched down at the St. Paul Holman Airfield, and Brad took him here, and the Channel 5 chopper was above him, showing him going in.
Yeah. I have a Facebook status from 13 years ago today, August 19th, 2009, that says, "Who did the Vikings just sign? I can't remember his name, but ESPN has been covering it, and I know he's really old. Remind me again."
Trying to be clever Declan there.
Clever Declan.
On Facebook. We have a couple more, one that's going to make Judd's head explode here. But before we get to that one, let's shout out our friends over at Underdog, guys.
Yeah, Underdog Fantasy, the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports. Yesterday on preseason football. In fact, we'll have some lines, too, for the Vikings preseason games. I love getting on preseason football, and why wouldn't you, right? I mean, you may as well be able to watch all that stuff, and they got great pick-em options. And also, behind the scenes, the old executive producer here is working on a little Score North weekly fantasy football league once the football season starts. So if you want to get in on a potential fantasy football matchup with myself and maybe even Mackie and Judd, you can join Underdog Fantasy with promo code SCORE. They'll match your first deposit up to $100, and then we'll do a weekly draft every week. It'll be a blast. Join Underdog Fantasy on the Underdog Fantasy app. Judd, I know, won some on the preseason games yesterday.
I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to show you right here. Seahawks and Bears, right? Nobody cares. Oh, it's a boring game. Not when you are playing a 4 over-unders and you officially say, I think everyone goes under, and they do, and that results in me winning $50. You know what? Sometimes negativity can work when you are playing something like
Judd is fading preseason football games and getting paid. You can be like Judd. Join Underdog Fantasy. Download the Underdog Fantasy app.
Amazing. Judd's also fading having to do things and fix things around his home, which is why he likes Finch Home Solutions.
That's 1,000% right. You know what? I'm good at lots of things. Well, actually not, but I'm good at sports because I like sports. But you know what I'm not good at? And you know what I would never risk? Electrical repairs in my house. And do you know why? Because I don't want to do something stupid. And I also have friends who can come and do the work and take care of everything. And that is, as Phil just said, my friends at Finch Home Solutions. They can take care of everything from faulty outlets to flickering lights to installing or repairing electrical panels. And right now, Finch is offering a free home safety inspection to all Purple Daily fans. That's right, a free. So if you've got something on the fritz or you're a little bit concerned, you know what? A free home safety inspection. 612-357-2604 or finchhomesolutions.com. Finchhomesolutions.com. Don't do it yourself. Let the experts do it for you.
All right, let's get back to the feedback here. Dominic Whetstone. There's kind of two that are a similar theme. I'll just throw them at you back to back. Dominic Whetstone via the Score North app says, Judd, please drink a Surly and chill on Kellen Mond for now. We can't get a third quarterback. Cousins needs Mannion, and Mond is impressing enough to be on the roster for 2023. Give Mond one more development year and see how it plays out. I trust KOC enough to make a game plan for Mond if he did need to come into a game. Hollywood Frog via the Score North app says, Judd needs to stop bullying and publicly shaming Kellen Mond. He's basically a rookie, and he's learning a complicated offense. Judd's camp notes made it sound like Mond would be incompetent, but he actually played pretty well. For being the show that always admits that you were wrong, Judd needs to publicly apologize to Mond and admit that he was wrong.
Here we go again. Kellen Mond played in a preseason game at which the Raiders do almost nothing. And you know what? He made some good throws. I feel like people didn't hear me, too.
Well, now you're publicly shaming him again here.
Coming off of that game, I said I was going into the game on Sunday. I said I was a Mond, might be a practice squad guy. Now, I've said, you know what? I can see him being the third QB, where I have a bone to pick. And the person's not necessarily wrong, but the first note, I've got a bone to pick there. Are you really going to go with Mannion because Kirk likes him? No, I understand not going and trading for Garoppolo, okay? You're not going to do that. I don't expect you to. But are you really going to keep a guy who is 30 and who is clearly pretty much just cooked because Kirk likes him? What I'm saying is, and people aren't listening, I'm saying Kellen Mond, if you put him in a game...
I'm a people's person.
You possibly are going to have real problems in his development. What I want to see is him developed correctly. And... we all agree last year was a complete dud. Like, he didn't get help. He got nothing. He probably got complained at by an older guy than me. But Kellen Mond's a guy I want to see as the third quarterback who gets the reps and development behind the scenes. I, however, have a major problem if they default to, well, Kirk like Sean. And they might, but I have a problem with that.
Yeah, it feels like this is where I agree with you, this isn't really about should they cut Kellen Mond or anything like that.
Correct.
It's about what value does Sean Mannion bring on the field. Okay, is it possible that his value with understanding the system, because he was in that Sean McVay system for 2 years helping Jared Goff, that maybe they could squeeze 6 months of offseason value from him and his knowledge and then say, all right, thanks for the OTA minicamp, summer, and training camp help behind the scenes. You've given Kirk all that he needs. Now we need someone that can actually play and win a game, which he's never done before in his NFL career. To me, this is much more about what to do with Mannion than Mond, right?
That's what yes, 100%. And it's also about, and I think that O'Connell is certainly smart enough to do this, it's also about having the right idea about what's best for Mond. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's folks who are like, make him the 2 and put him in games if you have to. I think that defeats the purpose of the development.
And why does Kirk, and I think people are probably overemphasizing this point about, well, Mannion's there for Kirk. Dude, Kirk turned 34 years old this week. He now has an offensive-minded former NFL quarterback head coach. That's all you need. Okay, you've got your own decade plus of experience. Yep. You've had experience in this system, and now you have a good relationship with Kevin O'Connell. You don't need a safety blanket or a non-threat. You need someone that if you go down with a rare injury for a month, to come in and win a game or two, go 1-3 or 2-2 and keep your season alive so that you can continue on for the last stretch of the season. So, yeah, like this Mond stuff, I don't know. He should be on the team. Sean Mannion's the one in question. Sean Mannion's the one that can't even look good in a preseason game against the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
After being in the league for 6 years or whatever it's been.
Yep.
So, anyhow. Okay, Jay Fish 350 via the Score North app says, when will the Before I Die shirts be delivered? I think that's happening now. I think I saw that picture of them being shipped out like 2 days ago.
They're being shipped. I actually have one in my mailbox down the hall. But yes, they're being shipped right now. So you should be getting them very, very shortly.
Nice.
Awesome. That's great.
Nice. And then Bob in Iowa via the Score North app says, interesting Cousins nugget. Cousins was sacked over 220 times in this time frame. I don't know what time frame he's referring to. Maybe like the first 6 years as a starter. Peyton Manning had fewer than 150 sacks. Marino had fewer than 100. Cousins is an awkward anti-gunslinging goober who can't win the big game, but I'm excited to see what happens with KOC and, God willing, an improved offensive line. I will say this about the sacks. Some of it is definitely on the bad offensive line. But the difference between Cousins' sack totals and Manning and Marino sack totals aren't all offensive line. A great quarterback who understands how to move a step or two here or there in the pocket and just like pre-snap reads, who's not mobile, can avoid sacks by doing all those things.
Yep.
So, yeah, like, did Manning probably have better offensive lines? Yes. But did Manning have such great offensive lines that he was only getting sacked 11 times in a full season because there was a brick wall in front of him? No, it's because he knew how to not get hit. Well, if you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think that's right. And this is why O'Connell's system should put Kirk in a position to throw guys open, which means you have to trust they're going to be there when they are supposed to be, and that's how you get rid of the ball. Like when you watch the best quarterbacks operate in this way, it looks really simple. Like, of course he can do that, right? But then watch the guys who aren't as good and who actually wait for the receiver to flash. If you wait for the receiver to flash in this league, you are risking being sacked.
Yeah.
So like that ball has to come out when it's like, this is all predetermined game planning. Like you don't practice for fun. Like training camp's not because, I just love to play football. I think I'll go out here. Now it might be for some guys that are on defense, but the reality is offensively, Thielen, Jefferson, and Osborne are all supposed to be at certain places at an exact time. And if Kirk hesitates, which Kirk has done, he might get sacked or actually throw a pick. So like there's a lot of risk here that he has to accept and take. If you don't take it, and this is where I guarantee you Stafford got picked, because it breaks down at times. What you can't do is if it breaks down, you can't be obsessed with that breakdown. You have to continue to do this over and over, and that's how you avoid sacks.
Yeah. So there it is. Those are your feedback questions of the week. Mr.
Thank
Mankato update.
Appreciate that.
Judd is sort of the official decider of the finalists here, and then we can see what happens. But yeah, let's shout out our friends too at Livia for helping get Judd into game shape once again here. You've stayed in game shape since you lost a bunch of weight last year, but other people can too.
Yep. And look, I mean, look at this face right now. Look at how, if you go back a year plus, big bushy beard, double chin, right? Now, slim down. How? Thanks to my friends at Livia Weight Control Centers. I'm down 40 pounds. Dawn joined. She's down 16 pounds. So we're both on a program that absolutely works. And the best thing for me is I hit the 40-pound mark a while ago, and now I'm keeping that weight off. And right now it is their anniversary sale where you can join the program for 50% off. That's right. Lose weight, 50% off. What a deal. 855-GO-LIVEA. Livia.com, Livea.com. If you are looking to shed those pounds, if you are looking for clothes that you have said, you know what, I'm going to go on a diet tomorrow and fit into those clothes in 2 months, and you don't do it, Livia, the dietitians, their experts will help you. It's as easy as Livea, Livea.com. Inside the metro or outside, they can help you out.
Another one of our great partners here is Federated Mutual Insurance Company, and they have been partnered with so many businesses in and around the Twin Cities over the past 100+ years. It's impossible to count the work that they have done. And that work is grounded through their culture in equity, integrity, teamwork, and respect. They bring these 4 cornerstones to all decision-making and all interactions that spill over into your business as well. So if you want to find out about the great work Federated has been doing for other businesses and see if your business could benefit as well, go to federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. All right, Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment. Just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl, inching closer to the regular season.